Welcome to the Dallas Songwriters Association Songwriter Spotlight. I'm Barbe McMillen. Each month, we explore the songs and stories of an award-winning songwriter. I'm your host, and I could not do this without the man behind the scenes with the technical experience, and that's our director, Harry Hewlett. Thanks goes out to Harry for ramrodding our DSA talent onto our local stages and into the spotlight. Tonight, our spotlight is on Will Townsley, a former writer for Curb Publishing and Al Johnson Black and White Music, both out of Nashville. Will Townsley's songs have been recorded by Jason Ashley, Colt Prather, and others. Will has composed and arranged music for various ensembles of all levels. His music from film and television includes scores for 4 documentaries. Will has performed with artists that include Sammy Kershaw and Joe Nichols, and he's opened for Jake Owen, Brett Young, Chris Jansen, Richie McDonald of Lodestar, Larry Stewart of Restless Heart, Tim Rushlow of Little Texas, Blues Traveler, and the Wilder Blue. He has performed for major organizations, including the Dallas Cowboys, and was invited to perform at a Songwriters Showcase that includes the world-famous Bluebird Cafe in Nashville, Tennessee, and of course, the Wildflower Music Festival here in Richardson, Texas. In 2022, his song, Nothing to Do with You, received a single song publishing deal with Washington Street Music Publishing in Nashville and was a grand prize runner-up in the Dallas Songwriters Association 2023 Song Contest. Will currently teaches music industry courses at the University of Texas in Arlington. Please welcome the very, 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 very talented Will Townsley.
Thank you. She can wear a brave face in any place, but she hides a heart that's breaking. Somebody went to store her fire, but she gotten good at the faking. But she's strong, she keeps going on. Well, she could be crying tears all night, but a smile wouldn't give you a clue. On the outside she will color your world, on the inside she's hiding shades of blue. She don't wear her heart out on her sleeve. Doesn't mean that she don't feel. While a part of her breaks into pieces, you'll only see what she reveals. 'Cause she's strong, keeps going on. Well, she could be crying tears all night, but a smile wouldn't give you a clue. On the outside she will color your world, on the inside she's hiding shades of blue. Deep down she knows she's gonna be alright, and the hurt won't last forever. Heartache goes away with time, love will put her back together. 'Cause she's strong, she keeps going on. Well, she could be crying tears all night, but a smile wouldn't give you a clue. On the outside she will color your world, On the inside, she's hiding shade. She could be crying tears all night, but a smile wouldn't give you a clue. On the outside, she would color your world. On the inside, she's hiding shades of blue. Shades of blue. Thank you.
All right. So when you wrote that song, did you, what came first? Did you have the hook Shades of Blue, or was there a story behind it first and then you found the hook, or did the chorus come to you? How did that
If
happen?
I can remember, it was kind of a little bit of everything. I'd been playing around with that, just playing around with it, and then I let it go. And I looked over in my record collection and I saw a Miles Davis album, famous album of his called Kinda Blue. And it started making me think, I was like, wait, I can play on that a little bit. You know, what is Kinda Blue? And I thought about making a song called Kinda Blue, but then I thought, well, no, once I started kind of getting into it lyrically, I started going, no, this is about somebody that tries to keep it in and put on the brave face, but you know, kind of the concept that everybody goes through stuff that no one knows about, and so I tried to play a little bit on that.
So you have an extensive jazz background because you have studied jazz composition.
Yeah,
So how
and it's
much does
funny.
that affect your songwriting? Apparently, you got a title from Miles Davis, so that's not
Yeah,
bad.
you know, it's funny because I didn't really start doing it until I was older. It was just kind of a happen deal. I was actually living in Nashville at the time, and I decided I wanted to go back to school. Um, and I heard the jazz band. I was like, well, I want to. That sounds cool. Um, I haven't really written maybe one jazz kind of tune that I don't even remember how it went. But I think I took that tune and turned it into another song. Um, but I think just understanding. For me, it was understanding a lot of those old standards lyrically. Whether it's Gershwin or Johnny Mercer, um, you know, Hoagie Carmichael, who wrote Georgia in My Mind. I mean, those to me, they said a lot lyrically, and they were very clever. I always thought the song Gershwin wrote a song called "Swonderful," S
Hmm.
apostrophe
Yes.
wonderful,
It's marvelous.
Swanderful,
It's
Smarvelous.
marvelous.
I always just thought that was really clever. And so I guess you could say I try to be clever like that. It doesn't always come off,
Mhm.
but I'm always looking for that kind of angle, that kind of hook. So
Yeah. Well, I think it worked on that song. You have another song for us?
yeah, I could do another one.
Okay.
I'll play um, I was telling this story at Wildflower. When I very first went to Nashville, I was just a kid, didn't know anything. I was just really green. Um, I went around doors, knocking on them. I was fortunate enough to meet a couple of people, but they really were like, yeah, kind of just being nice. It's such a friendly town. Um, Finally, the last door I knocked on, they actually let me in. And it was Al Jolson, Black and White Music at the end of Music Row in Nashville. Um, and they called a guy, and they called him Bronson. That's all he went by was Bronson. Come to find out, his real name was Neil Hermith. I had a cassette, and he was kind enough, he's like, I've got, just a couple of minutes. Come back here. I think he listened about 8 seconds of this song, of a song I had written, which I thought, you know, when you're young, you just think everything you write's just great, and that was just a real lesson for me. Um, but about after 8 seconds, he pulled the tape out and he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "Are you trying to be an artist? Are you trying to be a writer? What?" And I said something stupid. I said, "Well, you tell me." And he put the tape in the case and said, "You need to go back to Texas." And I was like, "Oh,
Ouch.
okay, that's it." And he goes, "When you figure out what you want to do, um, then come back. But until that day happens, we just don't have this kind of time." So I walked out with my tail between my legs and went back to Texas. Eventually moved to Nashville and started getting in some circles and writing with people. And I'd written this song with a guy named Billy Decker, who Billy was a writer who helped me get my songs on the Curb catalog. And so we co-wrote this, and I started just sending stuff out and letters and everything. And that same guy called me back and said, we'll do a single song deal on this song." And of course, he didn't remember me. Years had gone by, and I didn't have the heart to tell him, "Remember, you told me to go home." So, but this is a song called "How Long," co-written with my friend Billy Decker in Nashville. So. How long, you ask, will I love you? How long will we be like this? How long? Well, the answer is simple. However long forever is. I tell you, baby, we got a good thing going and it feels so right. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't ever see an end to us inside. You say your faith's been shaken in the past. I may not be your first love, but I'll be your last. How long, you ask, will I love you? How long will we be like this? How long? Will the answer is simple. However long forever is. You think I'm joking, but when I tell you that I love you, you don't have to doubt. I've only spoken those 3 little words once, and mama, don't count. If you're thinking I might one day disappear, well, the grass is looking greener right here. How long, you ask, will I love you? How long will we be like this? How long? The answer is simple. However long forever is. You say your faith's been shaken in the past. I may not be your first love, but I'll be your last. How long, you ask, will I love you? How long will we be like this? How long? The answer is simple. However long forever is. How long? How long?
Well, all right. So how long did you stay in Nashville?
I was there for 5 years from 95 to 2000 before I moved back to Texas. So
Wow, how did you manage were you working there, and how did you manage to stay there for 5 years?
I did. I, sometimes I don't know, but I did had a gig doing I was doing the dueling piano thing,
Hmm.
and just doing, trying to do writers' nights on top of that, and write. I did a lot of writing with some really cool people. That's where I met Billy Decker, who now Billy is like the number one sound engineer in Nashville. He was always great at that, but he was also a great writer. I mean, he had the deal with Curb, and then he got me and another friend of mine uh, who had introduced me to Billy. Everything we wrote together, he ended up getting it on the Curb catalog. So, but yeah, it was just a great experience. I learned so much from that whole industry and writing, and I miss it sometimes, but I love Texas too. So,
So was that an Alley Cats in Nashville, or?
no, so actually, it was owned by the same people that took over Alley Cats toward the end. The Grahams
Mm-hmm.
had taken over. I don't remember who originally owned it. Um, uh, that's where I had met Richard Tyson, who introduced me to you,
Yeah,
actually. Richard's a great writer. I know he's still doing like a lot of new age stuff and
yeah,
instrumental things,
yeah.
um, but yeah, it was the same company. It was kind of a fluke deal. Um, a friend of mine who had also worked at Alley Cats had moved out there, and I was just kind of traveling around doing different dueling piano gigs and whatnot. And he called me up and he said, "Man, I don't have any players out here." I was like, "Well, you just moved out there. What happened?" He goes, "I thought there would be players here when I got here." He goes, they wanted me to look for players." And he said, "Do you want to move to Nashville?" And I was like, "How much time do I have?" I think he said, "I think you have a week or two." And I packed up and moved. And it was an exhausting week. And then once I got settled in, things started rolling. But
Mhm.
yeah, my friend Kyle Level had moved out there.
Of
And
course, you weren't married and you didn't have any kids.
yeah, well, no, not at that time.
Yeah.
I'd been married, going through some things, but yeah. So, um,
Did you grow
but
up here in this area?
I grew up mostly in Denton, Texas.
Okay.
Um, so I was born in Northeast Arkansas. Had traveled around as a kid, mostly living in Northeast Arkansas till I was about 11 or 12.
Were you
Um,
born in around Fayetteville or
Northeast, like
Northeast?
Jonesboro,
Oh, okay.
Arkansas,
Yeah.
right there. My
I've never
family
been.
actually had lived in Memphis at one point. I still have family in Memphis, um, but we're right there, hopping back and forth over the state line, and
Hmm.
because it was so close.
Yeah.
My dad worked on Elvis Presley Boulevard for a manufactured housing company. Um, so I'd see Graceland all the time as a kid.
Yeah.
And when you're a kid and you're like into music, you want to be Elvis. And
Yeah.
so I just thought it was cool, but we didn't think much of it because we saw it all the time. So
Hmm. Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. There's in the news today is
yep,
Graceland.
I saw that. That's a little sad almost,
Yeah.
if it's true, I guess. But yeah, mostly I grew up in Denton, spent my high school days and middle school days there, and then of course uh, my young adult life before I moved to Nashville and then moved back to Texas. So
Mhm. Were, so did you play in the marching band?
I did. I was in the marching band. I played saxophone. Saxophone is my main instrument, if you can believe that. So
Well,
I
I was
don't play it a
surprised.
lot.
I didn't really know that until somebody mentioned it to me and I saw it in your bio.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
was
I
surprised.
don't play it as much as I used to. I studied it in school because I could read music on it, and when I decided to start going back to school, I guess I didn't stop. So, but
No, right.
all my learning came later. So what's great, because I gained all this experience in the industry when I was younger, and so I'm able to share that with students now. Like, hey, this is the way it really is.
That helps
So
a lot in teaching. It really
yeah,
does. So you got
just
another song
having.
for us?
Yeah, I can do another one. I'll do this one. This is the one I entered in the song contest and got second in the country category. Um, this one was written. I wrote this during the pandemic. Um, you know, everything shut down and just trying to find things to do. My wife and I would go on walks, and I don't remember who said it, but I'm like, well, another day of doing nothing. And one of us said that, and the other one said, well, I think I said, well, I love doing nothing with you. So I turned it into nothing to do with you. Um, just kind of as a twist on words. I ask if you want to go out. You say you'd rather stay at home. I asked, should we call our friends? You said it'd rather us all alone. Girl, if it's nothing that you want to do, then I'd love nothing to do with you. Grab a bottle and a radio and meet me out on the front porch swing. Kick back and catch a little buzz. Find an old country song to sing. I'll be staring your way, taking in the view, 'cause I love nothing to do with you. 'Cause it's nothing like some time without all the crazy. We can lose our minds with some wine and a little lazy. You and me alone is always long overdue. I love nothing to do with you. Nothing wrong with taking you out. Gotta do it every now and then. Long as I get to be with you, it don't matter about the where or when. We can find a lot of love in a little solitude. 'Cause I love nothing to do with you. 'Cause it's nothing like some time out on the crazy. We can lose our minds with some wine and a little lazy. You and me alone is always long overdue. I love nothing to do with you. I love nothing. Girl, when you wanna do nothing, I love nothing to do with you.
Excellent song.
Thank
That
you.
was the song that we talked about. That was the one of the runners up for the grand prize in our 2023 Dallas Songwriters Association Song Contest. Say, now, how many years did you play down at Alley Cats?
Oh, like maybe 4 or 5 years.
Uh-huh.
I was down there.
And then
I
they
left for a little bit and then had come back, but
seems like there was a place in Oklahoma and another place in Kansas and stuff that
yeah,
people were going around
they're
playing.
everywhere now.
Carl
So
and those other guys and too, and Richard was going
yeah,
playing.
Carl's
I think Carl's still doing it a little bit.
Mhm.
All those guys. Richard might be doing some of it too, but everybody I know that I could still see, at least on social media and stuff, are doing some form of it. They may not be doing the dueling thing, but at least they're performing and doing that kind of thing. So,
So I often tell my students that I think it's important as a songwriter to actually learn cover songs because that's where all of this information goes into your brain, and then you'll spit out some of these chord changes and stuff like that, and it all gets jumbled around in there, and you come out and create your own material. How do you feel like how has doing those cover songs helped you in your songwriting? Do you think or?
I think it's absolutely essential. I was talking to another, a great songwriting friend of mine named Scott Sean White, he's just doing all kinds of great things.
Another former DSA
Phenomenal writer.
song contest winner.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
Sky is I have him come to UTA sometimes, and much as I can, and talk to the kids. But the one thing he said is because he had done the like the show band, the cover band thing for a while, and he said, but we were talking about that, and that's where you learn song form and neat lyric ideas, and you just don't even know it. You're just soaking
Yeah.
up all this, like you said, you're just absorbing all this material, and not just like reading it, but like memorizing it and transcribing it and writing down the words. I used to write down lyrics to song when I was in high school all the time that I thought were really neat. I would just handwrite them out and just see what made it tick. I think it's everybody in Nashville said, well, it's a 5-year town, but I had studied so many songs that I was able to, with some help with some friends, get some attention, after just a few months. But
Mhm.
I'd been taking, uh, at that time, I was just fascinated with a great songwriter named Skip Ewing who had many, many hits.
Yeah. I get his
Um,
emails.
and I would just, oh, yeah, I love Skip to this day. He's still a great writer. I think he moved off to Wyoming, and
Yeah.
um,
That's
but
that's right.
lyrically, I just thought, man, this guy's. We used to joke, say he'd cut a deal with the devil, um, and to be able to write that well. One time, we were fortunate enough to meet his publisher, and I said, What's the deal? Did he cut a deal with the devil? Is he just that good?" And he started chuckling. He goes, "Well," he said, "I will say this." He goes, "Not everything he turns in is going to be on the radio, but everything he turns in is super well crafted."
Mhm.
So I got to see him at the Bluebird before I left Nashville, do a Songwriters in the Round. But yeah, just learning other people's songs. I always tell my students, pick a writer you like, and I'm always discovering new writers. Um, I think it's just important, and I will try to learn their songs, and maybe some of that magic will rub off on me. Who knows? So that's what I hope for anyway.
So what was your Bluebird playing at the Bluebird? What was your experience like when you did your showcases at the Bluebird?
That that was great. It was an audition thing, and I think I had just had some CDs burned maybe when CD burning was very, like, they weren't in the home. I paid a service, and I had to submit 3 songs, and I got the letter um, not long after that and said, "You've been selected to be in our Sunday showcase." And I was super excited, super nervous. Um, and But it was just great. Um, I, I I had I felt like I had a good response. I had a couple of people walk up to me afterwards, and are you signed? And that, I was like, no, no, no. But it was just, what was great is at the end of the night, they always had like a hit writer. And that night was Rivers Rutherford, who had just written so many hits. And I still listen to his stuff as much as I can. I find out. I don't know how much he's doing nowadays, but just a phenomenal writer. I try to go see people. I saw Gary Nicholson at the Bluebird. I know he's a Dallas guy, right?
Yeah.
He's a Dallas guy,
Grew
right?
up in Garland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tom Douglas. I mean, another Dallas guy. So those people were inspiring to me. But the Bluebird, just fantastic. If I could, I would not mind going back there and doing another showcase or sit in on something and be a part of that, because it was just it's a neat experience.
So when you did that showcase, did you specifically invite publishers and people that you've been trying to get to hear your music to come out, or did you just expect that there were going to be publishers there anyway, or how did that work?
I'll be honest, I didn't know who was going to be there. I invited 2 friends and said, well, I was like, well, you don't have to come, because I was so nervous about doing it. But I don't know who was in the audience. I did not go out of my way, because I didn't really know people. And I was just so, again, my whole Nashville experience was such a learning experience. And I thought, but, I heard of people showing up. And so just that thought made me really nervous about doing it. But I'd do it again in a heartbeat. It was just so worth it. Anybody that can do that experience, I highly recommend it, because it's one of the songwriting meccas in the in the world. So it's up there for sure.
Even though you performed at Alley Cats and you're performing a lot and everything, and you're still nervous when you get up and perform your own songs, why is that? What makes that happen?
I don't know why that is. I guess I think when I'm in the bar, everybody's too drunk to notice if I mess up or something. And it really doesn't
Or they're
matter.
singing along with you, so they don't know if they're singing the wrong words or not, right?
So right. It's funny because when I saw Skip Ewing at the Bluebird, he actually had to pause in the middle of a song because he couldn't think of the next word. And I was like whispering it over, oh, I know this song. And he continued on. So it's funny how these hit writers they'll still make mistakes doing showcases. But yeah, I mean, even at the Wildflower on Sunday, I was nervous. I had an unexpected couple of friends show up, and I thought, man, they've never heard me do originals. So it was great. I loved it, though. I had so much fun doing it. And on top of that, hearing other writers. I mean, there's some really incredible writers that I heard just while I was there. Sarah King and Stephen Valenzuela, and
it was Katrina Kane was the winner. Katrina Kane.
Yeah.
Well, she was the winner.
She came. I heard that, but I didn't get to hear her perform.
She was great.
So she showed up to Sarah's performance.
In fact, you can find that on our blog. Harry recorded everything. Your performance is on our YouTube channel. So you can find your nervous performances on YouTube channel. And Katrina's and
I hope it doesn't show too much.
The other winners were Zach Mayberry, and then the People's Choice was Mary Bouchard. And she was great. Okay. She was really super girl.
Yeah. Now, is that has to do with that Al Johnson contest?
Yeah, and you were one of the 12 finalists the year before. Isn't that correct?
I don't think I did it the year before, but
was it 2 years before? Because you were a contest. You were a contest finalist, and I was thinking it was the year before, but maybe it was 2 years before. You don't remember?
Yeah, I don't remember because I knew the only reason I would have remembered is if I had made it, because I I try to do as much of this mainly for the feedback,
Mhm.
and just to gauge my writing. You know, I'm not. I write because I love to write, but I also want to know how it is from people that are not my friends and family, because they'll always tell you, "Oh, this
Mhm.
is great. This is great." You know.
Well, you were
So
there and performed as one of the finalists. You don't remember doing that?
I don't remember doing that. Maybe it was
Because
something.
that's how we met up again
Okay, maybe
after
it
all these
was.
years. Yeah, that's how we met up
Yeah,
again
I
after all
get that
these
one.
years.
There's some other contests, the ones at Poor David's and all that, and I get those mixed up. I couldn't do that one this year because I'm going to be in Ireland when they have the finals.
That's
So
fun. Yeah. So
yeah.
that's real cool. Well, okay. So give me another song. I know you got at least 30 minutes of songs because that's how long your set was at Wildflower.
Well, let's see. Let's see. I played a couple of them already. I'll do. One of the things I've been doing lately is I was listening to a lot of blues, and I got involved with the Trinity River Blues Society. Um, so, and I'm still I'm going to, try that again this year. But I started kind of becoming fascinated with, you know, man, you hear all these blues songs, and it's challenging. You know, people say, oh, it's the running joke is, oh, you just start out with woke up this morning. But I'm like, no, that's not the way it is. That's like the running joke. And I'm like, you can't do, as a matter of fact, I always have, just to study form, I have my students do like a traditional blues form. And I said, the one rule is you can't start out with woke up this morning. Um, uh, this is a
So you're
song
about to play a 12-bar
called,
blues?
it's going to be kind of a 12-bar blues with a variation on it a little bit.
Okay.
Um, it's a song. I had written another song, and it was just kind of sitting there, and I didn't really care for that song in a different genre, maybe country or jazz or something. I don't remember. But when I was playing around with this melody, I thought, well, man, those lyrics fit. I just need to play with them a little bit. This is a song called "Not a Damn Thing." How can I think when you're always on my mind? How can I see, baby, when you got me so blind? You got me lovesick, twisted and blue, and not a damn thing I can do. Why do you play around with my heart? Why don't you stay, baby, instead of tearing me apart? You got me lovesick, twisted and blue, and not a damn thing I can do. How can I think when you're always on my mind? How can I speak, baby, when you make words hard to find? You got me lovesick, twisted and blue, and not a damn thing I can do. You got me lovesick, twisted and blue, and not a damn thing I can do. No, no, baby, I can't do a thing.
Oh, all right. So we were talking about
Thank
Gary
you.
Nicholson a while ago, and that made me think. Have you heard his act, Whitey? Oh, heck. I can't remember the last name. Do you know what I'm talking about? Gary Nicholson has an act, Whitey, whatever,
I,
where he does his blues
yes, and
thing.
I haven't heard it
Yeah.
yet. I've heard of it, but I can't remember the name of it either.
Yeah, he does that. He
So,
comes
but
to
I would love to
Dallas and
check that out.
does that sometimes. Yeah. So what are you doing in Dublin? You're going to Ireland? Are you going to
Oh,
Dublin?
just family vacation.
Oh,
Just
is it okay? I thought you
uh,
might be playing there.
Ireland. Yes, that's where we're staying.
Well,
Dublin. Yeah.
yeah.
No, no, no. Just getting away. So it's kind of my youngest is graduating high school this week. So it's kind of a gift, but also we're going to kind of make it for ourselves too.
Oh, yeah, the whole family.
So
You'll
yeah,
have fun. I love Ireland. You will be totally enthralled with Ireland.
yeah,
So don't forget to hit a few of the pubs. Find out who's got the jam thing going on in the pubs, because you'll really enjoy that. They gather there and do the old Irish songs and stuff with the fiddles and mandolins and stuff. It's a lot of fun. Guitars.
yeah. I've heard there's like some really neat songwriting stuff out there too. So, but and then probably of course there's some. I think they have an Irish rock museum and things like that that check out. But yeah, it's for pleasure, not business. So I'd love to play out there, but I hear
Did you book a tour
Scott,
or?
Shaun White. We're doing of course we're doing the Guinness and Jameson factory and some other things on that list. And one day we're going to take a train to the other side and look at the cliffs of Moher.
Yeah.
So
Okay, you're gonna do that by
but
train?
it's going to be a nice trip, and so I'm excited. It'll be my first. Say again?
So you're doing that by train. You're going from Dublin to the Cliffs of
Yeah,
Moher by train. Oh,
yes.
that sounds exciting.
We Yeah, it's going to be really neat. It'll be my very first time across the pond, so
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to it. Seeing how the other half lives.
Well, the Irish people are so friendly. They're just
So
and the
so I've
country is,
heard.
yeah, very beautiful and very clean. All the little towns there compete every year for the most beautiful town. So they keep their towns real clean and beautified. It's really nice. You'll love it.
That's awesome.
So tell me a little bit about, okay, so you've got a PhD. You're a big education guy,
Yeah.
so
Well,
and so
technically it's called a DMA, but it's a Doctor of Musical Arts. You do that if you study theory or history, you get the PhD. If you study performance like I did, you get the DMA. So,
okay. All
but
right.
either way, it's a doctoral degree. Yeah,
And so your performance was with the saxophone.
yeah. Believe it or
And
not, classical saxophone.
I've never heard you play sax. Did you ever play it
Yeah.
down at
Well,
Alley Cats?
we used to do little things at the top of the hour. I'd play a little bit. I was so green. Um, there were a couple of guys on that staff that were great players. Um, and as a matter of fact, when I decided to go back to school, I hadn't picked up a horn in like 10 years, maybe 15. And I was like, wow, I'm going to have to really brush this off. And I had to play catch up like crazy. Um, I ended up going to TCU for the doctoral degree. And that was kind of a fluke deal. I was not expecting it. And got to study with a wonderful saxophonist named Joe Eckert, who's now retired. But he was an inspiration to me because he was a big, he was in the Airmen of Note, which was like the most prestigious military jazz band there is.
Wow.
And he did that for 20 years and got to play with like all these major players. And,
Wow.
he would just call people up and I'd be like, wow, you know Sammy Nestico. Oh, you know so and so. Oh yeah. So, but the funny thing was, is nobody knew how great a classical player he was. I say nobody. People did. I didn't know how great a classical player he was. Um, so we spent all of our time not studying jazz, but we studied the classical literature for saxophone, which is really new because saxophone's only been around since the 1840s. So
Right. I thought it was always a band instrument, and you think of it as band music. You don't think of it as,
yeah,
in a classical quartet or, whatever,
yeah.
So that's interesting. So where
It's
did that music come from?
well, that's just the funny thing is once they decided to make it a formal study, people had to write music for it. So,
Mhm.
you know, you can find Mozart clarinet stuff from the 1700s,
Mm.
or
Mhm.
even before then, there was, clarinet stuff, or especially organ material or violins.
Yeah,
That
violins
stuff
a lot. Yeah.
is really old,
Uh-huh.
but but the saxophone's fairly new. I say fairly new. It's the newest instrument probably, so
Mm.
out of all the instruments.
So have you written
Popular
any,
in wind band.
yeah, so have you written any classical style music for the saxophone? Did you have to do that as part of your performance thing
I
or?
did not. It was strictly for performance. Now, but because of I got really fascinated with jazz. I composed um, a lot of big band charts for ensembles, even middle school ensembles. Um, and as a
Well,
matter of fact, I was
is,
asked recently.
is that when you worked
Oh,
didn't you work at in Grand Prairie at a middle school or high school as a band
I
director or something?
did. I was teaching. Actually, I took that gig during COVID, and I was actually teaching orchestra. I was
Oh,
teaching
wow.
string instruments, and
Oh,
I wasn't an orchestra player, so they may have frowned on me a little bit about that. But I knew enough about I knew how to make good music,
mm-hmm.
and I enjoyed working with those kids and seeing them get from 0 to 10 over a course of a year and watch them grow. That's always been fascinating to me. Just the whole pedagogy of music and anything. But I didn't do a lot of writing. Most of my writing was when I was in college, and then I did some after college just to you know keep doing it. Sometimes I'll still piddle with it.
Yeah.
So
So what's the International Leadership of Texas? What's that?
that was a charter school in Grand Prairie that I worked at.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it was a middle school. It was like I 6th through 8th grade where I taught there. Even though the I think the actual school was like a kindergarten through 8th grade.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, that's where I started honing my orchestra and band teaching skills. So,
Cool. Well, got another song for us?
yeah, yeah. I'll let's see. I'll since we're doing another on the blues thing, I'll do another blues song that I performed at the Blues Challenge. This one was I mentioned this at the Wildflower. This one was actually inspired by the movie Pulp Fiction. I had watched it. There's a horrible scene that takes place in a pawn shop, and Bruce Willis asks Ving Rhames, "Are you okay?" And I'm doing the paraphrase version, but he said, "I'm pretty far from okay." And I said, "Well, there's a title right there. That's
Yeah.
a blues song waiting
That's
to
a
be
good
written."
hook, yeah.
So this is called "Pretty Far from Okay." Even though you're long gone,
The heartache's here to stay. Even though you're long gone, the heartache's here to stay. So if you're wondering how I'm doing, I'm pretty far from okay. Seems my only friend is the whiskey in my glass. Seems my only friend is the whiskey in my glass. And it's there to remind me the love that didn't last. Every night I'm on my knees, praying you'll come home to stay. And every night I'm on my knees, praying you'll come home to stay. But until that day comes, I'm pretty far from okay. So if you're wondering how I'm doing, I'm pretty far from okay. Far from okay.
All righty. So what's that blues club like? Do they have that? So they have a competition. And do they have like open mic places where you go
just
and perform?
Well, they're more of an there's called the Trinity River Blues Society, but they're actually part of the Blues Foundation out of Memphis. Those are the people that determine like their own awards, like album of the blues album of the year, that kind of thing. But there's different chapters.
It's called the Handy. Is that the one that's called the Handy Blues
Yes,
Awards?
I think they have the WC Handy Award.
Yeah.
So every year, and they the Trinity River Blues Society, they do all kinds of activities in the community and trying to not only just promoting blues, but trying to raise money for artists, for their challenge or multiple things. They actually have I guess they have some kind of sponsorship with the Dallas Mavericks. There is actually a Mavericks t-shirt that has the Trinity River Blues Society on it, and they'll have like Trinity River Blues night at one of the Mavericks games.
Oh, okay.
But every year they host this blues challenge, and as a matter of fact, my first time doing it was last year, which is where I met Troy Inslee. I heard Troy get up and play some great tunes. He was phenomenal. and
So he
the
ran into
winner,
those
they only pick.
people. He ran into those people over at the our Christmas in July function that we do that has to do with
Okay,
the toys for kids for in South Dallas, Christmas toy drive thing. And the
right.
Trinity Blues people were over there, and that's where he heard about it. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead and finish
Okay,
what you were talking
that's
about.
cool.
Yeah.
No, I was curious about that. I'm
Mhm.
glad you did. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, that's I met him. I heard a lot of great players. Um, Usually those things are more geared for, I think, for players, but um, I did hear some really neat original stuff there, including Troy's. And that's I met him, and then I saw him again on last Sunday.
Mhm.
Um, and but the They pick one winner in different They have three different categories: a youth category, a band category, and a solo category or solo duo category. And that winner gets to go to Memphis to compete in the International Blues Challenge.
Mhm.
So, and
Mhm.
people from all over the world participate in that. And it's like a week-long event in Memphis. Um, but they're very active. They post all kinds of jams and things to attend um, for players and people just interested in blues. I think they coordinate with like KNON for
Mhm.
there's a Fort Worth Blues Festival every year. I
Yeah.
think Bedford has one every
Oh,
year, but I
Bedford
don't know
has one every
if it's
September. They have a blues festival every
yeah,
September. I've been to it a few years. Yeah, it's over Labor Day, I
yeah.
think. Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
been. I've been wanting to go, so
Mhm.
I don't know if that's any relation to if TRBS has anything to do with that, but it's amazing. Um, I kind of do some volunteer work with a guy named Ronnie Wilson who runs an organization called Boarded Up Music, and they're just about promoting. Their story's interesting. The Boarded Up because he had to board up. He owns a nightclub in Deep Ellum, and they had to board up the windows during COVID. He said, "Well, I want to find a way to keep promoting musicians." And so he created a YouTube channel. But just talking to him, he's like, oh my gosh, the Dallas music scene has not only is it vibrant, but the history. And the more we talked about it, was like going, wow, I had no idea that it was just so, I mean, I know Stevie Ray Vaughan, yeah, I mean, but I'm like, he's like, oh my gosh, there's so many great players. And of course, through you guys, Tom Douglas and
Yeah.
Gary Nicholson and all these, I mean, there's such a rich history in DFW
So
of
have you run
just
into Bill
great
Sibley or Bill
writing
Hudson?
and musicality.
Have you run into Bill
I have
Sibley or Bill
not.
Hudson over there?
I did
N-
not.
No, doesn't ring a bell. So with this competition that you were in, is this original songs or is it about performance and you can do a performance of a copy song or?
So you can, and I did, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. Of course, there's a point system. I don't know if you get more points for doing original. I'm all about trying to do original stuff anyway, but um, you can do cover songs, but it can't sound like the original. You can't be like lick for lick, and
Mhm.
you can't go play a BB King song and it sounds exactly like BB King's version.
Mhm.
Um, so I actually did a little known Huey Lewis and the News blues song called "Bad Is Bad," and I did that as a cover. And he does it kind of in a doo-wop fashion, and
Mhm.
I kind of did it in a traditional blues fashion. So,
Mhm. That's
but I did
good.
that as I think I did two covers and the rest were original. But you
Mhm.
have 25 minutes, so
Oh,
by the time
okay.
you
That's a
get
lot.
tuned up and
Mhm.
everything, so
So
yeah.
on those
Um,
original blues songs, do they expect you to have the standard 12-bar blues progression, or can you
no,
stretch it out like Stevie Ray Vaughan would do with a different chords for a hook, like a flat seven, you know, chord in there or something like that?
yes.
So,
I, I think it's really open. Even the rules say we understand. I think there's a statement in there saying we understand there's different kinds of blues. There's rock blues. There's country blues. There's.
okay. Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
I think they just want to find a great performance to send to Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I can't think of the name of the guy that won. Williams was his last name,
Mm-hmm.
but he was phenomenal and played original songs.
Mm-hmm.
And
How old
McKinney
was he?
Williams Jr. That was his name.
Say it
Oh
again.
man, he was probably I couldn't tell you. McKinney Williams Jr.
Okay. How old was he?
I couldn't tell you how old he was.
Okay.
I don't know. I was kind of far back, so I couldn't tell, and he's wearing sunglasses and
Mhm.
whatnot. But just a great, not only a great performance, but just great songs that he had written. Um, and some of them sounded really traditional, like Robert Johnson kind of stuff, and some of them
Mhm.
sounded like modern day Joe Bonamassa stuff.
All right.
Um,
So he did the full
so
range of, yeah, cool. So
yeah,
it sounds like you
so
have a lot of musical influences. Of course,
I
we,
do.
heard about the Miles Davis thing with the title at the very beginning. And then we're hearing, the Huey Lewis song that you did, blues style. And I've heard you mention other influences. What are some of the musical influences that you have? Who are your musical
Uh,
mentors?
it just so many. I mean, as far as I don't consider myself a guitar player, but I'm fascinated with the instrument. But of course, I loved all the people like Jimi Hendrix and people like that. But as far as songwriters, I mean, the list just goes on. Definitely, like I said, Skip Ewing was a
Yeah.
huge influence. Of course, the Beatles, Lennon, McCartney, and then a lot of today's writers. As a matter of fact, I've been listening a lot today of a great songwriter named Jason Isbell, who I just, probably you're not going to hear a lot of his stuff on the radio. As a matter of fact, you're not going to hear him on the radio
No,
probably.
but I've heard him at South by
Yet he has
Southwest.
this
Yeah.
massive, yeah, phenomenal songwriter.
Yeah.
I saw him in Oklahoma back in December,
Yeah.
and I was just blown away.
Yeah.
But he's had a couple of people cut his songs. Morgan Wallen "Cover Me Up,"
Mhm.
and there's another one I can't think of. But
Mhm.
after hearing him, I thought that's it. Because as I was younger, and I still would love to write like a commercially successful song, but it's not the most important thing to me
Mhm.
anymore. When I was younger, it was like, well, I don't want to even talk about it if it's not if it's not going to be a hit kind of thing. But as as you mature, you just want to write a really good song. And man, when I heard him, I thought, well, that's it. This is a guy that just writes really, really good songs. And so I've just been burning him up lately on my radio, on my,
Mhm.
what I'm listening to lately. But huge influence. Of course, I love, there's so much people, the students laugh at me, but when I'll play them a Willie Nelson song, and they don't laugh,
So
but
good,
like
though.
they just think it's like ridiculously simple. And I'm like, I
Uh-huh.
bet you couldn't write that.
Yeah. Try to write simple. I mean,
Nightlife or yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's the
Well,
hardest
then the
thing to
challenge is
do.
on, and they're like, "You were right. You were right. I can't tell that story in 3 minutes." And it's simple. And but Willie definitely a big influence, and Merle Haggard
Yeah.
for sure on country writing.
Mhm.
But I mean, I really soak up everything I can. If I think it's just I don't gravitate toward I mean, I tend to kind of write Americana country, um, but you know, like I said, I've been exploring blues. I
Mhm.
don't, I wouldn't pigeonhole myself into any one genre, but I listen to everything I can that I think is a great song. And even my friends, like Scott Sean White's got a new CD out, and I mean, it's just changed the way I write just listening to that.
Yeah,
You know, I'm like, wow, that is great. So,
he's great. He definitely is great. We love Scott Sean White. So, are you
oh,
teaching this summer?
phenomenal. I'm not teaching this summer, so I've got
Oh,
stuff to do, but I'm
got
not
a
teaching.
breather.
Yeah,
I
a little
know
bit
when
of a breather
that
before it's
final week
full
is
on
over,
back
I'm
in the
yeah.
fall. Yeah. So
Yay.
we have a studio and a recording studio. So it's I'm doing maintenance on that. It's some of the things in there are getting it's a great studio,
Mhm.
um, but you know we need new interfaces and things. So I'll be spending time install those and
Oh, you have
we
a
got a
budget
nice
for it?
you know SSL board. Yeah, I was. They provide, you know, every year I get a budget for it. So, but it's mainly just to kind of keep up with the Joneses
Yeah, the changing
and the
times,
needs. You know,
equipments.
yeah.
That's the thing
If
about being in the music business. You got to keep that
yeah,
equipment going every few years. You got to
yeah,
change what you're doing.
it
It's tough.
it's insane. And you know, we have like I'm not worried about things like microphones and stuff, but software.
Hmm.
There's just always something new coming out, and
Yeah. And
so
and then when you
you
do the
know
update on the software, then it's
oh
all the other things that go along with it. Is that going to work with this update? And you may be in a nightmare for two
yeah.
weeks trying to get it all working together. So yeah, it can be a nightmare.
I think I
Uh,
spent 4 hours. I think I spent 4 hours up there one day just doing updates
Oh yeah.
and and then testing it and seeing if it would work. So, um, but yeah, it's just been, it keeps me busy, but I
Mhm.
love it, love it, love it. I love, I don't, um, I'm not teaching in the studio as much as I did when I first got there a couple of years ago, but, I like what I'm teaching. I'm teaching songwriting, of course.
Mhm.
We have actually have a student-run record label, so that's a kind of a lecture slash practicum class where I will talk to them about things like copyright and publishing and licensing and streaming and then I oversee the practicum. I try to let them, you know, do their own thing without me. I'm just there for guidance on this, but it really is student run, and
Mhm.
um, you know they look for artists and stuff to release on the label, and they get it out there and promote it. So
Mhm.
I can't
That
complain
sounds
too
like fun.
much. They're doing a good job.
So you're doing the
So
album concept. When I did my survey of music business class, no, sorry, my marketing music class, we did I had them find an artist that had a single that was original song,
mm-hmm.
and then take that and promote it. How do you
Oh
promote it?
wow,
And you set up a schedule for to get it recorded, and then beyond that recording, then what do you do? Set up a schedule for promoting it. When do you release it? Where do you get, which distributor do you pick? That all that kind of stuff. So
mm-hmm.
it's
Deadlines are
pretty
your friends in those situations.
it's pretty complicated, really, but yeah, it's stuff they have to know if they're
Yeah,
going to do it. So, but it's a lot
yeah.
of fun. So,
Oh, I joke with them all the time. I'm like, I'm glad I'm not doing this. So
I know because it's a lot of work. I thought you'd be playing keyboard some tonight, so you just hugged the guitar all night.
well, I was gonna set it up, and I was in a bit of a time crunch,
You got
and
lazy and you ran out of
yeah.
time.
The funny thing is I'm really comfortable on keyboard because I've been doing it like for so long.
Uh-huh.
But um, I try to write on guitar, because I'm not comfortable on it.
Mhm.
It makes me feel like I can come up with different melodies.
Okay.
But I have taken a guitar song and then transferred it to keyboard and done demos that way. Like, oh, I think this will sound better on
Mhm.
piano.
Mhm. Yeah.
I love playing piano. I mean, I'm just super comfortable on it.
Well, you're really good
I'm
at
not
it.
a
You've been doing it
classically
for a long
trained
time.
pianist, so yeah, again, learning other people's songs
Yeah.
will make you figure all that stuff out. So,
Yeah.
um,
So, what
but
are you going to
yeah,
play for us to close the show?
I'm gonna play a song um, to close. It's a one I actually just I dug it out um, for the Wildflower Festival, and I thought, man, this is a great song. I co-wrote this song with David Banning, who y'all
Oh,
may
we
know,
love
and I think
David.
Bradley, his son's been on the show, I think, but
Yeah.
David is just a great writer, um, and so I co-wrote this with him. I had this idea about you know people that they don't have the capacity maybe anymore. What's it like? What's their inner voice like that if they don't have the people maybe suffering from dementia or things like that? The one caveat I will say is I couldn't find all the changes that David made, so I'm doing early version of this song, which is still great. But David, later we had worked on it and he had made other changes to it. So this is called Senses. He said these four walls have been my home. It's been all that I have known for the past few years. The nurse comes in every now and then. She draws the blinds, turns the bed, and then disappears. Tell me I'm a prisoner of my mind, but I know I'd escape if I could go back in time. And I'll come to my senses when I can see that Georgia sky, when I can smell the sweet magnolia, when I can hear the night wind cry, when I can feel the arms of the woman that I love so tenderly. I'll come to my senses when my senses come back to me. He says some days are better, some days are worse. It's just day to day living with this curse, but I get through. It's enough to drive a man insane when he can't go back down memory lane like he used to. When it's hard to face reality, I take comfort in a place still a part of me. And I'll come to my senses when I can see that Georgia sky, when I can smell the sweet magnolia, when I can hear the night wind cry, when I can feel the arms of the woman that I love so tenderly. I'll come to my senses when my senses come back to me. When it's time to leave this world behind,
finally gonna have some peace of mind. And I'll come to my senses, see that Georgia sky, smell the sweet magnolia, hear the night wind cry, and feel the arms of the woman that I love so tenderly. And I'll come to my senses when my senses come back to me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Will, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to share your songs with us tonight.
Thank you
and
for having me. It's been a pleasure.
I'm so glad you got to be here. I had fun talking to you too tonight. We kind of gabbed over time, didn't we? So to those of you who are watching or
Little
listening
bit.
today and tonight, thank you for tuning in to the Dallas Songwriters Spotlight. Once again, thanks to our producer director, Harry Hewlett. You have been listening to our guest songwriter extraordinaire, Will Townsley. There's our director, Harry Hewlett there. I'm Barbara McMillen. Good night from all from Dallas, Texas and Arlington, Texas. See you next time.